Good morning. This is David Bennett, and this is Bitcoin And, a podcast where I try to find the edge effect between the worlds of Bitcoin, gaming, permaculture, podcasting, and education to gain a better understanding of all. Edge effect is a concept from ecology describing a greater diversity of life where the edges of two systems overlap. While species from either system can be found at the edge, it is important to note there are species in the overlap that exist in neither system, and that is what I seek to uncover. So join me in discovering the variety of things being created as Bitcoin rubs up against other systems. It is Tuesday, 7:16 a.m. Central Standard Time. It's the 24th of November, 2020, and we're getting pretty close to Thanksgiving Day here in the United States. This is episode 328 of Bitcoin, and Jack Everett is joining us from Thunder Games. We talked about his company, Thunder Games, and what they're producing. A little bit, a little bit into mobile game stuff. That kind of thing. So we'll be doing that. That's what we're going to be doing. Before we do that, however, let's get into a little bit of headlines, just so we know what the hell's going around the horn. Here at Decrypt, they're basically going to cover. OKX is giving customers up to $1,000 for some godforsaken reason. Financial giant SBI wants to borrow your Bitcoin. It's a Japanese financial services player. They want to borrow your Bitcoin at 1% annual interest rate. Oh, 1%. Oh, good Lord. So, and clearly, if you've been under a rock since you woke up out of bed, if you're here in the United States, Bitcoin has broken $19,000. We don't know what it's going to do. What's it at right now? It's at $19,262 according to. I'm looking at Binance. No, I'm looking at Bitfinex. We're breaking through that kind of crap. Binance is evicting all of its U.S. users. They've given everybody 14 days to leave their exchange. If you are a United States Binance customer, get your shit off the exchange. Honestly, it never should have been there to begin with. Let's see. What's going on over at Cointelegraph? That was all out of Decrypt, by the way, just in case I didn't mention it. Let's see. Bitcoin hits the homepage of the Wall Street Journal. That's not the first time that's happened, guys. There's Ethereum 2.0 stuff. It's, apparently it's going to actually be able to launch because some people were able to stake enough to finally get it to move. I don't know. It's just bizarre. Oh God, the Fed chair Janet Yellen has been tapped by President-elect Biden to be the United States Secretary of the Treasury. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Oh man, I can't wait for some confirmation, or not confirmation hearings, but any kind of I need Bitcoin sign guy to come back and haunt Janet Yellen like the freaking plague, dude. What else is going on here? Crypto.com secures regulatory approvals from Maltese authorities. There's some XRP news. Apparently it's not doing well today, even though it has been having a run up. Let's see what's going on over at CoinDesk. Let's see, CoinDesk is spinning up an Ethereum 2.0 node. Good luck on that. Nobody else can seem to do it, so whatever. Is there anything else? IRS again warns crypto investors that they underreported gains. And PayPal CEO Shulman says he's bullish on Bitcoin as a currency. Things seem to be looking pretty good today, honestly. What is there anything over at Crypto Potato that seems really interesting? No, not really. They have this bad habit of reporting on mostly shit coins. Although John Lennon and Yoko Ono's son, Bitcoin gives me optimism, is what Sean is saying. Sean is Sean Ono. Sean Ono Lennon, John Lennon's son. Apparently, he's been kind of into Bitcoin for a while, so that's good. That's always nice to see. Anything going on over crypto news? It's all the same shit. Bitcoin is the only thing that really matters, and Everything else is kind of crap, except, well, there's this quote from Saylor, Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy. Bitcoin is a key engineering advancement for the progression of humanity. I cannot disagree with that. I just can't. So let's move on into the future with cnbc.com/futures and commodities. We have oil up 1.35. Oh, nice. So West Texas is trading at $43.64 a barrel. Brent North Sea up likewise 1.11%. It's going for 46 bucks and 57 cents per barrel. Natural gas is up 1.5. It's going for $2.75 for 1,000 cubic feet of that. All the metals are down except for copper. I don't know, maybe home building is on the rise or something, which is probably a bad thing to have happen right now. Gold, however, ooh, God, gold is tanking, dude. 1.6% to the downside. And silver is even worse, 2.5 to the downside. Gold's going to come in at $1,805. Silver's going to come in at 23 bucks an ounce. Platinum is kind of meh. It's 927 bucks. Palladium is down a full point, $2,333. Do indexes. Oh, we're saved to the meh side. Dow futures up a point. S&P futures up almost a point. NASDAQ futures up a third of a point. And the S&P mini is up 1.19. So we're saved in a meh sort of way. Bitcoin, real money. I'm showing on bidinfocharts.com that we have a price of $19,205. I got a high over at Bitfinex at 19,200 and no, that's Coinbase Pro showing 19,255. Nice. Hit BTC is the lowest one I got, 19,151. So a full $104 arbitrage range. Whoop-de-doo. 328,000 transactions made in the last 24 hours. That's almost 14,000 transactions on average per hour. 2.36 million BTC have been sent in around the horn in the last 24 hours. 98,702 BTC are being sent every hour on the average. The average transaction value is 7.2 BTC. The median transaction is holding at 0.03 BTC. That's about 630 bucks. Block times are slightly high, 10 minutes and 17 seconds. 0.5 BTC being taken in fees on a per block basis. 72.5 BTC being taken in fees overall in the last 24 hours. A precipitous drop in hash rate, 14% to the downside, but we're still at 128.9 exahashes per second. I don't think that's really going to hurt us all that much. I'm not even going to talk about the rest of this stuff. This stuff looks sick. There's, I guess it's alt season, guys. I don't know. It's bullshit. But I'll give you this one. Litecoin is at 87 bucks. $87 for Litecoin. I really amazing. Dogecoin though is at 0.0037. Excuse me, making Dogecoin probably the most stable shitcoin of all the shitcoins that were ever shitcoined. And at 41,000 transactions in the last 24 hours, it's smoking Ethereum Classic and Bcash as usual. And then Litecoin is coming in at 74,000 transactions in the last 24 hours. I don't know. I don't get it. Clark Moody, let's find out what he's doing today. We have 26 blocks about to clear. And when they do, they will take 32,652 transactions down with them. There is 1,047 BTC in the Lightning Network, and that is now worth $20 million. Who'd have thunk it? 7,818 nodes carrying 35,961 channels. Tor capacity is at 51.5% of the Lightning Network. So more than half of the Lightning Network now running over Tor. That means that 539.4 BTC are in the Tor side of the Lightning Network. That is going to have 2,628 nodes. Clark Moody is reflecting a price of $19,218. Clark also says there's 18,552,812.9 BTC in circulation. And with today's price, you can now trade one Bitcoin for 10.5 ounces of gold. I don't recommend doing that. But the market cap of gold versus Bitcoin, or market cap of Bitcoin versus gold, is now standing at 3.03%. Market capitalization has hit an all-time high for Bitcoin at $356.4 billion. That's billion with a B. For all the people that were pointing at me and laughing, dude, have fun staying poor. Let's get into some interview. Jack, welcome to Bitcoin and. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks. Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah. Now, Jack, I got your contact from Desiree Dickerson over at Lightning Labs, but I'd done an interview with her about gaming and Mint Gox, and asked her, hey, who should I be doing next? And I think you were the first up on the list, and you are the founder and leader of Thunder Games, correct?
Yeah, Thunder Games. That's it. Spelled THNDR. And I'm pretty pleased that people are managing to understand my branding there, because that was a bit of a random thing to try.
That's a good point, because branding, everywhere is fairly important. But I mean, I immediately got it, and it made it especially makes a lot of sense considering that the whole thing is followed by the lightning bolt emoji. That helps a lot.
Yeah. Well, actually, so in some countries, like the Spanish-speaking countries, I think it's not landing there quite so well. I've had a few people quote me as THNDR games, so um, but I think, yeah, just the clues of the lightning bolt in the logos hopefully will help. Because I get obviously they don't say the word thunder. I don't know what thunder is in Spanish, but so that's why it's
Yeah.
not as obvious, is it? Because it's not spelt the same.
Right. So let's get some. I kind of let's start out with some context here. I kind of want to know a little bit more about you, but let's take you back to high school, or rather, the United Kingdom's equivalency of high school. So you're chilling out like 16, in school. What are you doing? What are you thinking of? What do you want to do?
Wow, that's a philosophical question there. Yeah, I guess I always wanted to make games when I was a kid, and I think that was just because I liked playing them all the time. Like I used to like playing Mario Kart and um, Destruction Derby and those sorts of games. Tomb Raider was one I used to play a lot. So yeah, I just always kind of wanted to make games. I think when I was a kid, so I was either thinking about that or football, like the soccer.
Yeah,
Those
word.
two things.
Well, so was there any outlets for that provided to you by your school? Did they have like a computer programming classes or anything like that?
No, not really. We just used to do spreadsheets. It was all like business related computer stuff. I don't really. We did do some programming for like robots. That was quite cool. So you could like instruct these little Lego robots to do things. But no, we didn't actually have any games, computer games, or that kind of programming. Just basic industrial style work related ones.
Were those Lego bots that you were talking about? Is that Lego's Mindstorms?
I
Does
don't
that ring a
know.
bell?
No, but it was like, I don't know if it was Lego. It wasn't actual Lego. It was, I don't know. It was like we were making cranes. It was like a crane, and you could program it to move
Oh,
left and right and pick up something, or you know,
it sort of sounds like an erector set there.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know what it was,
So,
but yeah.
well, so you're gaming when you're a kid. When did you first pick up? When did you first pick up? Video gaming and kind of fall in love with it because we all do.
Yeah, well, I think getting addicted to it is more what happens to you when you're a kid. It's like your
Yeah,
first
that's true.
brush with addiction, isn't it? Um, I think the first games I played were on the NES, so that was like my era. Was when I was like 10ish, I guess. I can't really remember,
Okay.
but yeah, the NES. One of the yeah, I used to play Mario and like a WrestleMania game on the NES, and one of my friends had
Yep.
Doom. I had Doom,
Yeah.
and we used to play that, and I used to get so many nightmares after going around his house after
Oh,
school playing Doom. It must have been his older brother's game or something. Should not be
yeah.
playing that. um,
No, that was yeah, that was that the Doom stuff was kind of brutal, although it launched the whole I would say online gaming element, but that's not it. It basically was the for lack of a better term, the pre-image of being able to download games and all that. So, I mean, just the game
hmm,
itself was revolutionary at the time, but the fact that they released it as an FTP file on a download across for a special. I think you had to have a .edu email address to be able to get into the waiting room to get that thing, and
right.
their servers just melted down. It was like they just got lit on fire,
Yeah,
and I don't know. There was just a go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I've seen like obviously I was a bit too young to understand that side of things, but I did see a documentary recently about they were in a on one of the episodes. It was really interesting about I know exactly what you're talking about and how they were like they were like on the forefront of like the multiplayer thing as well, and like basically every kind of um, growth hack for a game that you needed at that time they like invented effectively.
Yeah, yeah, and it was really funny. I was on and off again with a girl out in college, and I had the misfortune. She made the wrong mistake of moving into the vacant house next door as a rental with her and her friends, and we ended up breaking up. And during that time of the breakup was when one of her best friends, who was dating John Carmack at the time, John Carmack comes and takes them all to Disney World. I'm like,
Whoa.
really? And then we got back together after that, and I'm like, man, that shit ain't fair, dude. And for those listeners that don't know who John Carmack is, he was one of the dynamic duo that came up with Doom. I think he was the one that figured out how to get a PC to do side scrolling. I know the documentary you're talking about. I can't
Mm.
remember the name of it, but it's awfully good. It was awfully good, man. So when did BTC run over you like a truck? Like when did you get hit by Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think it was probably. It's hard for me to. I remember. I don't remember the exact how I heard about it or the date, but I remember the. I actually remember the block size. The blockchain download size was 8 gigabytes. So
Wow.
one of your listeners, can figure it out for me and tweet me. But I remember it was like 8 point something, and I download. It took me like ages to download, and I was like, "This is ridiculous. No one's going to use
Mhm.
this. Like, who's going to download this?" So
Right.
I guess it was like I don't know, 2013, 2012 or something. And I have no
Probably
idea where I heard.
20 I'm thinking more like probably 2011, like at the front end at 8 gigabytes, because it's what is it? I could tell if I had my note up, but I don't want to get into all that. You were early. You saw it, or you saw it a lot earlier than I did. I'll guarantee that.
Well, I think I just was. It wasn't like I, I was really particularly recognized how good it was. It was more that I just was bored, one weekend and I heard about it. I guess
Uh-huh.
there must have been a massive price rise at the same time. Otherwise, I'm not sure how I would have heard about it. And I was interested in it because I was always like working on like mobile games at the time, and obviously they had virtual currencies and things. So I was kind of just wanted to see what it was about. So yeah, I basically just downloaded the Bitcoin Core client and around then, and I did do some mining with a Jalapeno miner from I can't remember who it was, Bit Fury, I think. No, Bit something. Um,
Yeah, that's a long time ago. That's like
yeah,
I
and
think
it's
that may predate Butterfly Labs.
yeah. I know it was, it was Butterfly Labs. Yeah, it was Butterfly Labs Jalapeno 5 gigahertz thing or something.
Oh
It was
wow.
I literally just bought a miner for fun to try it out. And as soon as I got it, obviously it was not profitable because it took so long to
Right.
arrive. But it
Oh.
it
Well,
was
at
fun setting
least you
up.
got yours.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
Jack, at least you got yours because they hosed the living daylights out of everybody at the very end where they just it was like one of the first exit scams in the industry. They just like
really. So,
disappeared.
I mean,
Yeah, there was
I
a
don't
lot
even
of
remember.
people. Yeah, there was a lot. I remember that there was a lot of people that were waiting on their miners, and then at the very end, they just didn't get them. And
Right.
I'm pretty sure that they also didn't get their money back either. But we see a lot of that in this industry from well, I was about to say from time to time, but it's becoming more and more. Um,
Yeah.
so now, so when you first got into Bitcoin or you first started looking at it, there was an immediate connection with gaming, like you were already looking at that, or was it something that was the connection to gaming something that you started thinking of a little bit later?
The the connection to gaming at the start was not strong. It was just more like I know about virtual currencies in games, and then I've heard about this like digital currency, and I was just like, oh, what's the difference? Like how how does it work? Like because it was obviously brand new. Like I
Right.
don't even know people were calling it blockchain then, or some, or if that was a term, or
Yeah.
famous term then. So yeah, I didn't really put it together with games straight away. But at that time, I did think is that it couldn't work for games because it was too slow to confirm. You know, you can't wait an hour for the transaction to confirm in a game.
Right.
Needs to be straight away, and also it was just incredibly complicated to use. It was quite obvious. It was
Yes.
like I was just got scared copying and pasting a public key into a website to cash something out because I wasn't sure that my copy and paste had worked correctly. Like when there's money involved, you start questioning, did my copy and paste work? Like if I copied this string correctly. So I was like, oh,
I
if I'm scared of this, like people are going to be too scared to use it. Almost like I don't know. Do you get that where you get a bit like, well, I need to double check? Um,
Oh, I still get that, Jack. There the only okay, the only time that I don't get that is when I'm using Lightning. But if I'm
yeah,
doing a main chain transaction and I'm moving something between wallets, I get freaked out. And what really messes my head up, and I'm glad well, I wish I was one of the whales, but I'm not, so I don't have to worry about this. But I see it like, I'll see a whale alert come across and it'll say $350 million worth of BTC has been transferred in this one transaction. And I'm like, all I can think of is, yeah, buddy, what did you have? How much did you drink so that you could feel good about press and send? Because that would
yeah.
scare the piss out of me, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever I said, just before I press send, I go and make a cup of tea and just drink it first and then come back and then make sure I've done everything correctly. But you're right about lightning.
Right.
That's true. I never get scared with lightning. I just do it. I don't know why. I
Yeah,
think
the
maybe,
amounts are. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I guess it's because um, the format of how you pay someone is almost backwards, isn't it? Like they send you the invoice, it's sort of a different format.
Yeah, I really like that. And I also really like that, that form, this kind of, well, I always did like the push aspect of obviously both Bitcoin and like and subsequently Lightning is that once I give an address to somebody, unlike giving my credit card number, nobody can ever do anything with that ever again. It's a one time deal if and only if I decide. And that's really where the light bulb moment kind of went off for me, is the first transaction that I did and really realizing, man, I have full control over this. There's no way that the receiver of that Bitcoin transaction, when I've made my first one, was ever going to be able to take anything from me again, which is not the case with credit cards. And
Hmm.
that's what I hate about them. But let's kind of get into like so you get out of high school, you go to college, and you're all into computer graphics, not as much doing program. Well, clearly you have to program and understand programming basics, but your emphasis was graphics and not like SQL database query manufacturing or front end development. It was all about graphics. Was
Yeah.
that just something that like you're kind of like maybe more artistic and just went to the visual side?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm a bit of an all rounder, so I am quite interested in the sort of artistic side of things. And yeah, so my course actually at university did have some computer science, like hardcore computer science stuff. So I did do some SQL, but it wasn't the focus. So I'd say like 70% was the graphics, but actually it was a lot of maths. So computer graphics is really, you have to be really, really good at maths to do it, because
Yeah.
you have to know about matrices and um, all kind of crazy 3D mathematics to understand how it's all put together. So it was like, although I did kind of go into it thinking, oh yeah, this will be artistic, and you can be like artistic with computer graphics. It actually was very mathematical to get your art on the screen, so it's kind of a mixture.
Yeah, I remember do you remember watching the movie Tron?
Yeah,
Man, did you read about the backstory on how Disney, what they had to do to make the graphics in that movie? Because there was no front end, there was no graphic user interface for anything that even remotely approaching a 3D modeling editor.
yeah.
Nothing. It
I
was
haven't actually
all like,
read about that, but I can imagine. Like, I mean, so I did computer graphics at university, and then I did special effects as my first job. And like, just in the 10 years or 15 years since then, like, things have changed so much. Like the stuff I had to do at university, you just don't have to worry about now. Like, you don't even need
yeah,
to know any maps to do games. You just need to like drag and drop things. Whereas when I started, it was
yeah,
like you had to know exactly how the mathematics. Otherwise, it was just I did my masters on collision detection, which was like,
uh-huh.
for your listeners, the computing how if a bullet strikes a person in a first person shooting game type mathematics. But you don't need to worry about that when you make a game now. All that stuff's
Nah, in
completely
Unity,
yeah,
yeah, in
Unity.
Unity, you just drop a collision detector, on whatever it is that you want, and then hook those wires up, and it's pretty much a done deal.
Yeah,
It,
yeah,
it's amazing. My boss at Texas Tech, I was the administrator for the 3D animation lab out at the library there. Me and my boss, we talked about games all the time, and just what Unity and Unreal and the other engines solve for us now that he had to hard code not more than 10 years before me and him met. And it was just
yeah.
amazing seeing that happen. So it's not just Thunder Games. You're still doing stuff with Fire Zoo. Is that correct?
Yeah, so FireZoo is another games company that I have, which is not my primary focus now. I'm trying to make
Okay.
the Thunder Games one more of a success, but um, FireZoo is like I made a different company for it. I could have put it under the same brand, but I decided to do a separate one in case like the Bitcoin thing put me on like blacklists and made my games like I guess shadow banned on Google Play or something, just to keep it
Mm-hmm.
separate,
Mm-hmm.
which I think has happened, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. Uh, I don't
Oh,
know if you,
that's a bummer, man.
yeah. So I had the first game, Bitcoin Bounce, and it was getting like 1,000 downloads a day from like organic search, and then all of a sudden it was zero.
Wow.
Yeah, so I can't know for sure if it's like kind of been suppressed or if it is literally like I just got lucky with this kind of random organic searching that was happening, or they tried a different algorithm or something. But anyway,
Yeah,
that's why I
I've
did
got
two different companies just in case something weird happened.
Yeah, and I've got a couple of questions about app development and having to navigate all that stuff a little bit later. But so when you found Lightning, was that the moment when you're going, this is for games? This can be for games? Or was it not that way?
It wasn't. No, it wasn't exactly like that because I did. So when I went and researched Lightning, which was, uh, I guess, like March 2019 was when I started looking at it. Um, I didn't think it was going to work still because it was. I actually thought it was even more like, even though we talked earlier about the new sort of the way that Lightning works with the invoices is kind of makes you less scared. I actually felt like it made it more complicated. Although you had the advantages of it being an instant payment or near instant, and you could send small amounts, which is good for gaming. I just still felt like it was like the scanning QR codes and all this stuff was just like too much of roadblocks for people to onboard to it. But then I stumbled across the LNURL protocol, which is kind of like an organic thing that spawned from for people with wallets to be able to cash out and pay for things on web services, and that encapsulates that logic that a user normally has to do, which is like create your own invoice, send it to the person who's going to pay you, and then receive the money. So, because that encapsulates the logic, it made the user experience like 10 times better. So I was like, well, yeah, that's it. Then I can just do it with LNURL. So, and that's what you'll see in my games is I deliberately have no like logging in. You don't have to log in or anything. You just tap a button and it creates an LNURL, which lets the user cash out. So once I actually made that sort of one-click cash out with the LNURL stuff, that's when I realized, oh yeah, this is actually something that's got no friction, that can onboard people. It's actually fun to use, and it can onboard new people because they haven't got to learn anything about invoices or the Lightning Network or anything, because they're just
Right.
tapping a button and it opens their wallet. What they need to do is download a wallet and then tap this button in my game, and they get some Bitcoin.
Yeah, user experience, is just one of the most important things ever. And it doesn't matter what the product or service is. It's absolutely user experience is absolutely critical. And those people that don't take it seriously, I think, there's only one thing that I know of that has the most terrible user experience that people will just go ahead and fight through because they just love the game so much. And that's a game called Dwarf Fortress. And even the developer of this thing, like it's him and his brother. And if you haven't heard of it, I won't get into it, but it's like this immense game with this massive rule set. I mean, it's just this, it's almost mind boggling when you look at the structure of it. But the user experience is so bad. And
Yeah.
there's not even a unifying theme between different engagement scenarios where you're
Yeah.
like setting up your dwarfs to you're going to armor them and give them swords and stuff like that versus something else that's in the game is like it was built by two completely separate people, yet it was actually built by the very same person. He's the first to admit, I suck at user
Yeah.
experience.
That's the problem when you're
So
just a small team. Then you don't you have blind spots, don't you? You can't make the best thing on every kind of in every discipline. He obviously
right.
made something good, otherwise no one would fight through it. He must be amazing at one particular discipline.
The whole thing was based on a synthetic story generator. This thing will actually he's got a program that causes a computer to get these like just weird inputs, and through that sort of like genning up your own wallet address, but in this case it gens up a history of this this game. And it's not, when I mean history, it's like in English and it's readable. He never wrote a scrap of it, and yet full sentences with punctuation, proper names, and all the sentences make sense and they're all cohesive. I still don't know how he did that. And that's one of the things that I think, because it's like you can generate 10,000 years worth of history. it's it's bizarre. If you've never seen Dwarf Fortress, I talked to Samson Moe and Wayne Wan Chong out of um, oh god, I'm so embarrassed. What the hell? Infinite Fleet, yes, Infinite
Yeah.
Fleet, and they hadn't seen it either. And I'm like, dude, you got to go see it just for the story generation aspect because it's amazing. So yeah, just if you get time, research Dwarf Fortress and be astounded and amazed, and also just like, oh my god, nobody's going to ever play this. So Thunder Games. Okay, so I want to kind of dig into this specifically. What I know that you said that you kind of started Thunder Games to get it to where it was decoupled from FireZoo, but what caused you to actually say I'm going to do Thunder Games?
um, so I actually have had some problems with Apple and Google in the past of like taking my games down because they didn't like them, or too violent. One of them was, and I've always kind of like wanted to like do something where you're like a game developer who that is not coupled to their platforms, and Bitcoin is the like ultimate way to do that. So that's what it was, that was kind of the inspiration. Was like I don't want to be messed around by anyone anymore. I just want to do my own thing. And but saying that, I have actually released the games on Apple and Google, but that's not like my ultimate plan for Thunder Games. That's just kind of like a means to an end to get some traction and get some people interested because it's still the easiest way to play games, and all the good wallets are on the phones as well. So, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically the genesis of Thunder Games was kind of me getting sick of like like all of these big tech companies. I won't go into the details about how I got screwed over, but
Oh no,
maybe
that's
it.
that. I think we you know, in the space we've heard enough stories about this, from Bitcoin wallets to other services being taken down off of Apple and no reason given. And it's just, yeah, it's they I kind of feel that big tech has dug themselves a deep enough hole that they may, be swimming in money, but I get the feeling that some of the choices that they've made have put them in a permanent position of basically being viewed as the enemy by all the rest of the people that are coming up, saying, I'm
Yeah,
not going to do things the way that you do things. And we're seeing more and more open source. We're seeing more and more people give over their time and energy for not much money because they're just sick. They're just sick of what they see.
yeah. If I was really wealthy and I didn't have to like try and find a way to uh, make money, I would just do open source and just that would be it. I would be anything I could do that would help remove them from their monopolies. I would be on board with that.
Well, I think over the course of the rest of our lives, I think both me and you are going to see a wholesale change in a lot of stuff, and I think it's going to be a lot more graphically violent for these companies than we think they are. I mean, I could literally see, something like, a billion, hundreds of billions of dollars of market share basically being just blown out overnight, and I can't wait to see it happen. But moving on, I want to ask you about the games that you do have on Thunder Games. It looks like I'm just seeing two when I go over to thunder.games/games. Is that sort of just the Bitcoin Bounce and the Turbo 84?
Yeah, those are the two we've got so far. So they're both like hyper casual games to make it super. They're kind of the idea is to make a super easy, simple game. So the game is really easy to learn, and also have a super easy, simple way to cash out, which is Lightning, which should be as easy to learn as possible. So I didn't want to make some complicated. Or firstly, I didn't want to make a complicated game because I didn't want people to have to learn too much stuff, and also making a complicated game is expensive. So
Yeah.
yeah, we've got these kind of simple, hyper casual games, but I think the reception to them has been quite good so far. You don't need to blow the bank on a massive, crazy game to have a success. I think.
So was the creation of both these games, was it sort of also not just, it seems like it may have not just been I want to make a casual game. I don't want there to be a high learning curve, but it also seems like there was like that lends itself into, this is how we are onboard people into Bitcoin via the Lightning Network, and making that experience just really cool, and having a game that powers that, where you can do something and collect satoshis on the Lightning Network and then be able to cash out. Is Was that in your thought process as well, to onboard?
Yeah, so that's basically the main thread is monetizing onboarding of people to Bitcoin through games. So the easier I can make it to onboard people to um, Bitcoin and the Bitcoin companies, the more money I can make through ads, etc. So my incentives align with the Lightning Network in a way because I monetize the game through ads. So I want to make sure the right ads are going to the right users, and they're going to try all these cool Lightning products and Bitcoin products, and also teaching them to use a Bitcoin wallet, which helps other Bitcoin wallet companies, and also finding out what the pain points are for the users with the wallets can help sometimes. But then also that means that the user journey in my game, which is ends with them having to download a wallet, becomes a sort of monetization point as well, where I can potentially, have a recommended wallet or something. So the business model is actually planned around onboarding people, um, which is why the game's so simple and why it's got an advertising model.
That makes sense. So how now? I guess we should kind of pause here to say that Turbo 84 has now been released on the App Store for Apple, and I know
Yes.
that because I downloaded it. I'm trying to get my son to play it so he can farm me some satoshis, but he's not having any of it. He's got his Nintendo Switch, so it's a little difficult right now. But surely, that against all recognizable child labor laws, I want him to farm me some satoshis.
Yeah.
So how does lightning work? Let's take Turbo 84 for an example. This is a racing game that the car's going and it's going rather slow at first, and you're switching lanes to avoid obstacles, and then all of a sudden things start dropping that you can go pick up. Can you explain what are your thoughts on lightning in Turbo 84? What was your thinking? How were you thinking about, okay, I know how lightning works. What can I do to represent that in the game, and how do I get out? Can you kind of go through what your thought process was on that?
So yeah, in Turbo 84, there's the iOS version and the Android version, and they're slightly different with the Lightning integrations because Apple have
Okay.
different rules. So in basically, the concept isn't how do I put Lightning in the game. It's how do I use an monetary or compensation incentive to my players to get them to play more. So my goal is to get people to play my games for longer and play more and enjoy it more. So I came at it from the angle is how do I put Bitcoin into the game, which will increase those metrics, not necessarily as a kind of how do I just put it in for being in their sake. I could put Bitcoin in the game, but
Right.
it would just people would just collect it. I mean, like I would just lose loads of money. So I came at it from that angle. So on Android, we have a daily lottery. So users collect raffle tickets as they drive along the track. And when you collect these tickets, each one goes into the lottery. So the more you collect, the more chance you've got for the bigger prizes. Um, so that's quite good because we can give away really small prizes, we can make sure everyone wins. So even if you just get one ticket, you're definitely going to win like 10 sats or something. But like the
Right.
jackpot's like 5,000 sats, or sometimes it's 500,000 sats. So
Wow.
that increases the re-engagement aspect of the game because people come back every day to do it again. Like, I'll try again today, or just get a few sats, or I'll just get a few tickets, see if I can win the jackpot. So that's the kind of way we've done it in the Android version. And on iOS, we weren't allowed to do that because there's a rule saying you can't give users compensation for tasks. So, for example, you can't pay them to do surveys, or you can't pay them to watch ads, or whatever. So we
Okay.
kind of fell under that kind of rule, which I don't think there is. I don't think we did, but then they kind of changed it because the reason they gave me wasn't that particular rule. It was like a general bad business practice rule. So, and then they said it was because I was giving money for tasks.
Oh.
Um, on the iOS version, the only way you can actually win some satoshis is like randomly on a spinner. Like I don't know if you use the Fold app with their spinner.
Yes.
It's the same concept as that one. So you
Yeah.
can open the game and you can spin the spinner if you come back every day, and you either win some kind of game content, some free game content, or you might win some sats. And they've accepted that for now.
For now. Well, again, I got questions about that here in another section, but one of the things that I thought was the most interesting about that game is I'm sitting here playing it, kind of testing it out, and I'm like, this is a little bit harder than I thought. and the car's going, I'm like 5 miles an hour. Why do I suck so bad at this? But you get better at it, and a clean screen and clean fingers actually do help on that kind of stuff. But so then I start I get to the point where I have gone far enough that I start picking up or not picking up tickets, but I'm picking up these little, like, I can't remember,
The
the
little
little green.
blue tokens. Oh, the
Yes,
green.
those.
Oh,
And
there's the green power ups which make you go faster, and then there's the blue
okay.
tokens which you can spend on like new cars and stuff.
Yeah, see that, and that's what I was like going, okay, so this is like, this is good, this is good. And then I finally, I can't remember exactly what happened. I finally got into where I could go to the spinner. I'm like, oh, okay, this is like, like you said, it's like the Fold app. It looks
Hmm.
familiar. And I spin it, and it's like, you've won 10 Satoshis. And then the little button is collect. I'm like, okay, hit collect, and it's like opens up my Blue Wallet, because it just
Yeah,
happened to be on on my iPhone. It sensed that it was there, opens it up, and says, here, like I've got the invoice, and then I collect it, and all of a sudden I get 10 Satoshis. This happened within 15 seconds. This is one of the most slick user experiences that I've ever had. Kudos, man. I mean, because like we said, not only is user experience important, it's hard to develop. And I think you nailed it on that one. Was that something you were pleasantly surprised with when you figured out that it
yeah.
was going to be that smooth?
Well, to be honest, I'm not the best at user experience, and I think the reason why it's so good is because it's got a good foundation, which is the Lightning Network, and there's not really anything. There's not really any kind of divergences that can happen. It's like it either works or it doesn't. Most of the time, it
Yeah.
works, and it's just opens like all of the stuff that makes the payment happens with the LNURL protocol that I mentioned earlier. So
Right.
that encapsulates like who the team of people who've been developing that. They're kind of like some anonymous people and some known people in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah.
They're the ones that deserve the credit for the user experience because they solved the problem. I just in the game just literally used it. Um, so yeah, I don't get really deserve any credit,
But
but
that's
I'll take
awesome
it.
though. Yeah. No, but I mean, but see that having these tools become available, I remember when, Lightning was, it was really hard to, it was really hard to use, and the experience got better, but everybody was still harping on the fact Lightning's going nowhere because of X, Y, and Z on the user experience. And I'm like, everybody else that understands what's going on, I'm like, do you have zero patience?
Yeah.
And I don't get that. I'm like, I remember having to type in full URLs into Netscape to get to a website that took 15 minutes to load because it was graphics heavy. Had a bunch of pictures on it, like astronomy.com at the time or something like that. And I was I remember I was downloading the Hubble Deep Field photograph of all the galaxies that are way, way, way away. That thing's huge. And it took 15 minutes to download. I didn't cry about it. I wasn't saying, the internet's going to fail because of it. So I don't get the sentiment here where we see all these things that like the LNURL comes along, and it's like a game changer. And yet still people are like, nope, Lightning's going to fail because of this, this, and this. I don't get it. You got any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So whenever I see something like that on Twitter, I try to. I don't want to be like a Twitter evangelist or anything like that. It's not my kind of style. But if I do see someone say something like that on my Twitter feed, I do like try and comment and like correct them. But I don't know why people. I think it's just some people's personalities are like that. They just think, oh, it doesn't work now or never work. um,
Yeah.
but I've no. There's been some issues recently with the high fees that affected some Lightning wallets.
Yeah.
But that's because they still need to work on the protocol a little bit. Still, it is still kind of a work in progress. It's very, very
Oh,
close to
absolutely.
being like. I mean, I'm getting away with it with Thunder games. It's almost like you can use it in a production uh, app or game, but there's still some kind of pitfalls.
Yeah. No, and there will be until yet again, some anonymous group of people who are just tired of all the BS that we seem to have been fed over the decades just solve it, because it just happens again and again and again. Just when you think something is bad, it's like, oh, by the way, we did this here. You can use it. And it's the
Yeah.
most amazing thing that I've ever seen. But the one thing I really wanted to ask, are I I know this is not going to be true, but are you running your own Lightning node to power this, or how's how are
Yeah.
you
So
doing that on the back end?
at the moment, I'm using a Lunar node. So I basically follow like I said, March 2019. I was like, I'll set up my own Lightning node so I can test this stuff out. And I
Uh,
think or it might have been June when I actually finally did it. I can't remember. And I just followed the tutorial on the BTC Pay server um, website to set up a Lunar node. There was like a one-click installs a Bitcoin full node and a Lightning node. So I've been using that ever since, and I got some help from Christian Moss, who is one of the founders of Zebedee. I think it was
okay.
before he founded Zebedee, but he helped me with BTC Pay Server a little bit to set it up, and so yeah, I've literally just used that setup until now. I'm still using that same node, and but I've recently started using. The voltage, get voltage. I don't know what the full name of the
Yeah.
company is. So I've got one of those nodes now, and I'm going to try that one out because the BTC Pay server one is good, but it's probably more for a merchant. I actually just need like the raw node. In what's happened is I'm not actually using any of the BTC Pay server so much. I do use
Right.
I do use it for some invoices for when I get an advertiser who wants to advertise in the game. So I'll still keep that node, but yeah, I'm going to use the voltage product. It's really cool, and the good thing about using it now, I don't want to shill it too much. He doesn't pay me for this, by the way. But the good thing about using it now is because he's just sort of starting out. You can get quite good customer support because you can go in his Telegram and go in the voltage Telegram group, and
Yeah.
help get set up and ask any questions that you think that you're too scared to ask. Almost you can ask in that group. So
Yeah. I
that's
was.
why I get value from it because of the customer
Yeah.
support.
The way that this community is coming together, it's not just Lightning. Like, I was setting up Sphinx chat. I wanted to set it up on my own Raspberry Pi alongside my node BTC, and I found great resources just chatting with the people in their Telegram, and they were really helpful even when I nuked both my config.json file and my app.json file. They were like, we were all laughing at me, and I'm like going, dude, I'm such a noob when it comes to Linux. I was like just dumping out of the editor when I was making edits to those files and not realizing that I wasn't saving. So I went back to config, and it's like this blank sheet, and I'm like, oh shit. It's amazing. So where does Thunder Games go next? Do you got another game in the pipeline, or are you just kind of chilling out with these two games right now?
Yeah, so we have got two games that we're penciling in, and they shouldn't take too long to make because with a lot of the development time with the first two games was dealing with bots and dealing with Bitcoin and dealing with just everything that comes with making a game. So there was quite a lot of work to do on that side. But now we've sort of solved quite a lot of our problems that we had originally, and the monetization problems we had, which was because we had Bitcoin in the game. Became quite difficult to get advertisers.
Hmm.
Like Google wouldn't allow it, for example. They wouldn't allow their ads. So it was a bit of a problem. But I've found some people now. So solve some of the kind of business related problems. So yeah, we've got a couple of games. We're probably going to make web versions of the Bitcoin games as well because we can be more creative then. Because the rules are too limiting on iOS is like a joke. You can't do anything. And Android
Yeah.
is almost the same. It's yeah, you can't really do anything on Android either, apart from basically what I've done, which is this kind of tickets and like almost like a loyalty points that reward you prize. That's you can't do esports really, or anything like that.
Right.
So
Well, I want to kind of ask you a couple of questions about mobile development, because at one point or another, you're always going to get, exposed to some computer programming, and you've got, developer kits and whatnot like that. But, I know one guy that has developed for mobile. So I kind of wanted to ask, if you get a concept for a game and go into deployment of that game, what do you use to build on? I mean, is there are you guys putting the art assets together, and then you're not building it on a mobile phone. You're building, I would assume, a desktop. Is there like some kind of mobile emulator or something that you guys
so
use? What's that like?
yeah, so I just use Unity. So you can, in the Unity software, build a game for mobile, PC, Mac, web, and you can, within the editing environment of your game, you can emulate the screen sizes of, like a mobile phone. So you can make sure it's going to work properly on that screen size. Then, if you want to test it on a phone, you need to export from Unity to Xcode, which is the iOS way to use Xcode to build iOS apps, and then you can build that and run it on your phone and test it. And then on Android, you can use Android Studio. So you basically go from Unity to Android Studio or Xcode, and
Hmm.
then build it in a normal way, like you would a normal iOS app or Android
Okay.
app.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I had actually forgotten about using Unity. Was its export functions are ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the most amazing thing, because when we first put it on the computers at the lab at Texas Tech Libraries, they you'd be able to deploy it out to Windows or Mac. You know, you
Hmm.
could make a Windows game, or you could make a Mac game, and that was pretty much kind of it. And then the next iteration that we got for the laboratory, there was like two more things that you could go to. I think it was like you could go to Xbox or PlayStation or something like that. And then the time after that, it was like all horses were let out of the ring. It was just running free. There was like, me and my boss were looking at the list of what you could export to, going, there's no way. There's absolutely no way that they made all of these functional, and they did. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Um,
good.
well, at what point, when you're doing, when you get to the point, well, okay, what's the point at which you are satisfied with the game to go ahead and deploy it to like the Apple App Store or Google Play or something? Like, what has to happen just in general for you to say it's ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, so the first game I made was Bitcoin Bounce. I don't know if you've played that one, because it was on iOS for a while, and then Apple took it down. um,
Yeah.
and for that one, that was like a proof of concept. So I made like the most ridiculously simple game, and the graphics were just cubes. But I made it like to look like a blockchain or something.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I'm
so
looking at a
I,
screenshot.
yeah, I wasn't too like precious about it. It was more like, does the gameplay work? Does the cashing out work? Does it have like the key elements of like a hyper casual game, which is kind of endless and addictive and challenging?
Hmm.
Um, and then yeah, I just released it as a beta, and because people liked it, and I saw they liked it from the stats, like they would repeat playing like the next day and the next day after that. I just pulled the trigger on it and was like, oh, do you know what? I'll just get this out. Um, and then for Turbo 84, that one was actually that one was actually a game I'd built for FireZoo, and
Hmm.
we were actually really into the film Drive, which is got like kind of a pink 80s theme to that film, and
Yeah.
so we kind of just wanted to make it look like that ish, like have that vibe to it. Um, but normally, like the because mobile games are never going to look like AAA titles, you don't have to really worry about how they look so much, because the ones that get to the top are just the charts, are just the ones that spend the most money on ads, and it
Yeah.
means that because they're kind of cheaply made, everyone's expectations is not very high because the best games are not like them spent loads of money on the graphics. So I don't worry too much about that. I worry more about if people are playing it and if it actually just kind of works.
Okay, so now you've made the decision that, hey, we're going to cut it loose and we're going to send it on. Let's talk just a little bit about the app approval process. What the hell is that even like? I mean, just what's your like thinking about how to do this? Like all your experience with having to do this. Um, what's that like? Is it just horrendous, or is it not so bad, or what?
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Do you know what? I guess it's like over the years I've got a bit more desensitized to it, but I feel like it is probably one of those things where it's quite emotional when you like. I do worry. Like when I get an email from when I've received an email in my inbox and I see it's from Apple, I do think, "Oh my god, what's happened?" Like even if it's just a notice about a terms and conditions change, my heart skips a beat. um,
Yeah.
it's not like they. I haven't had too many problems, but it's kind of the thing that when you've had one problem, you always think the worst now. So it is kind of scary, but it's. I think it depends on your personality as well. Like some people are just amazing poker players and have no emotion. Like they probably would be fine. But if you're a little bit emotional, you could potentially get a bit like if you get rejection. I think some people might take that quite hard because the problem is with Apple is you get no feedback. So you basically have to spend loads of money, build something, and then hope that they accept it. And then when they don't, and you ask them like, "Oh, what if I change this? What if I do that?" They say, "We can't give you any advice. You'll have to upload a new build, and we'll check it." So it's like
Okay. So,
you spend another like $2,000 or something doing a chat like an update to the thing you've already done, and then they reject it again. And it's like, at what point do you start thinking, "Oh, I just need to save a bit of money and not relentlessly keep iterating, on this concept because they just don't give you enough to work with." But like, I mean, I got enough eventually with Turbo 84 to get them
uh-huh.
out. Um, but that I'm a bit disappointed with Turbo 84 because it is literally just the spinner. At least with on the Android version, the tickets. At least
Yeah.
the better you are at the game, and the more tickets you get, the more chance you've got of winning, the bigger prize. So it's kind of there's a relationship there between the gameplay and the winning of prizes, which unfortunately I can't particularly do in iOS.
Yeah, so it decouples the skill versus, yeah, your ability to get satoshis, and that, yeah, that blows. But it's God,
It's better than nothing.
yeah, and when you got to play by their rules, then there's just, I mean, because they don't care. They're like, fine, don't
Yeah.
play by the rules, bye. And which brings me to the next question: is you've had games pulled off of these platforms. Do you even get notified, or do they just get pulled off? Do you get a warning, or do they notify you when they pull it off, or do they just not even care? All of a sudden, you notice your game's gone.
Oh no, you do get email. So with Bitcoin Bounce, what happened was I did an update. So I must have done about 10 updates to Bitcoin Bounce, and I put loads of documentation with like how the Bitcoin works. I explained how the payments work, and they even wrote back to me in one of my updates saying, does your game contain a wallet? How does they wanted clarification about the cryptocurrency and everything. So like I went through all of that, and the app was out, and I did loads of updates, and then I did an update which I think just had like I don't know a new character in it, and then all of a sudden that update got rejected because of um, the Bitcoin in it, the Bitcoin prizes well, the
Uh-huh.
competition that I'd set up basically, which had been accepted before, and I'd given all the paperwork and the terms and conditions and legal work that I'd done on it. I didn't just randomly do submit it. I did check that it wasn't illegal. And yeah, so then you get an email saying your recent update has got a problem. It's kind of like a friendly, there's you've got a message. it's something like Apple has sent you a message in the resolution center. So you go to
Oh
the
no.
resolution center, and you're like, oh no, what have they said? And it's like this,
Yeah.
it's like a little kind of like chat room thing, where like a thread, and they just tell you, they basically just tell you the specific rule you've broken, and you can reply to them, and they can give more clarification, but they don't normally. And then they sometimes call you. So on Bitcoin Bounce, they did call me as well, and explained to me that I had 2 weeks to fix the live version, otherwise it was going to get taken down. Um, so I just took the live version down myself because
Uh,
I was like, I'm not sticking to your deadline. I'm going to just take it down myself.
yeah. Yeah.
And then I thought I'll come back with some different approach because there's not just giving away Bitcoin as prizes. There's other angles you can put Bitcoin in the game. Um, for example, player to player trading of assets. So you could have games that allow users to upload assets and sell them between each other, and that could be a Bitcoin. There's different things, but obviously that's quite an expensive thing to implement. Um, so yeah, then I just took, you just take the I just took the, in my case, I took the game down. But then once you've got the rejection status, you just have to keep doing updates until they accept it, and then once they've accepted it, then you just get an email saying your app is ready for sale.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Well, you bring up a good point because it transitions into the other stuff that I wanted to ask you about was, beyond Thunder Games and what your company, just gaming in general, not even mobile, just video games in general. And, where I'm getting into the whole, where does Bitcoin and Lightning, beyond Thunder Games happen in games? And I was thinking about like, let's think about one of the first things that me and you both had was when we first discovered Bitcoin. The first thing that we did is compare it to the digital tokenage of any of the games that we had probably been playing or heard of, and realized, yeah, there's going to be a money duplication bug that somebody's going to exploit, which they always do, and it kind of drives us away. But now we're here, and we know that this isn't going to happen. So it's time. I think it's time for video games to start revisiting the potential of inserting actual economies into their games. So when I say game economy, what's your first response? What's your gut reaction?
My gut reaction is probably too hard, and also um, probably too hard, and also money in games isn't new. Like, so when I think about Bitcoin and Lightning, and I look at all these products that come out, not just games, I just replace the word Lightning with money and see if there's anything innovative. And in
Hmm.
games, you can already have money in them. So and what big games companies do is they don't use that mechanism. They have their own virtual currency, and I guess the reason is because, well, I think pretty sure the reason is that you want to obscure value from your users. So if they buy 10,000 gems for $5, and you spend those gems on a hacksaw, and that hacksaw creates you can use that hacksaw in the game to get 10 trees, and then you use the trees to buy something in the game. So then the trees are like the money you spend. You have no idea how much a tree is, so you're more likely to spend loads more of it. That's why they have all these crazy currencies that you exchange between, is to stop you understanding how much you're spending. So the problem with putting Bitcoin straight in is it's so valuable, and it has this idea of it being valuable. You don't want to spend it, you need to save it, and you want to collect it. Now, if you use it as a normal currency in a game, people are not going to spend as much on your stuff. It's going to be the complete
Hmm.
opposite of what you want to happen. So I see it that it can work in a game, but it's like the other side of it. So for stuff you want people to spend on, you use normal virtual currency, and then the stuff you want people to value, you use the Satoshi. So that's what I've done in Turbo 84, in particularly on Android, is I want them to value playing more, collecting tickets and winning Bitcoin. And then so that's the thing, that's the they collect and they don't spend, and then I want them to think that the tokens, those uh, blue tokens you spoke of earlier, you
Hmm.
use those to spend in the game, so they're valueless. Like people don't care about those, and you can buy those as well with cash, and you just don't have any because you're winning them all the time as well. You don't really have any foothold in how much you're spending. Like what's one token worth? You don't know, and it's worthless, so you just easily spend it. So I think there might. I think that's my gut feeling is it will be in games maybe like that, but I might be wrong. I'm not
Well,
the
no, I
you
mean,
know.
you're echoing the same sentiment that, because I've done a lot, almost all of my first year, I think my fifth interview that because I started doing Bitcoin and just as like giving the news, but I really started wanting to talk to people about about a few different subjects, and gaming is definitely one of them. And you're not alone. I mean, you're echoing the same sentiment that I've heard from Samson Moe,
Mm,
and some other people that have said pretty much the same thing, that they're not really up on the direct use of something like Lightning directly inside of a game for the very
yeah,
reasons that you're talking about. So what I see happening is that the game itself will have like an input transformer and an output transformer. And what I mean by transformer is like, if you're stepping down voltage in electricity on an electrical grid, you got, electricity coming in on one side of the transformer, and it induces through a magnetic field electricity into the other pole. And so electricity never directly contacts it sort of uses the magnetic field to induce something else to occur. And when I kind of think that I see the rail of Lightning or Bitcoin going up the side of a game,
mhm,
and that
yeah,
it induces the ability for you to have tokens inside that game, and then possibly be able to cash those tokens out through another transformative process that turns it back into Satoshis, but not actually directly in the game. I think
yeah,
it'll happen in a few instances, but as to whether or not it works and works well, given the regulatory aspects of what we're talking about, I don't know.
yeah.
You
Because
know,
there's like
I w-
a massive problem I've considered. Obviously, like I'm literally like worked on this problem for a year now, and like I wake up thinking about it. Go to this like what I think about every day. And one of the big things that you don't think about when you're just starting, just making a game with Bitcoin in, is that your game is going to crash a lot, right? If your game's on mobile as well, there's all these crazy like Android phones that might like if someone's battery dies, you crash it. The phone, you lose your progress. So if you're playing a
right.
game like Turbo 84, and instead of tokens, they were satoshis, and you're playing it for 5 minutes, and you collected 200 sats, and the game crashes. Well, that person's lost 200 sats. They're going to be really angry at you.
Yeah.
And I know what people say. Oh, you could make the game not crash, or you could, you know, dynamic like send them the sats in real time. But it's like that's a lot of work
Hmm.
uh, to do that. And also, it's like, but then when you also think about the reasons we just spoke about um, with the why would you use it anyway problem, it's like there's too many things that go against it. Um,
Right. Yeah.
but I'm completely open to it because people were like Zebedee. I don't know if you've seen their Mint Gox project, which
Yes.
is
That's where
their
I came into interviewing Desiree Dickerson.
yeah. So they've got satoshis in the game. Their flagship game is like a Mario Kart game where you collect satoshis as you drive around, and then you can throw them at people. So I mean, it is fun concept. I mean, in that game, it does actually work quite well because it adds strategy to it. Because you might want to just save your satoshis instead of throwing them. So in that
Yeah.
case, it works well because you want the dynamic of something feeling valuable, and then that becomes part of the gameplay.
Yeah, and you could always do stuff like, if you're like the racing game type concept of throwing satoshis, but you continuously like you're like, I don't know, buy power ups, and you continuously throw it at your favorite driver. And if that driver wins, you get part of the prize. I could see
Yeah,
that. I could almost see something like that happening, because God knows degeneracy and gambling in this space is freaking
yeah,
rampant. I've seen
yeah,
more people talk about their poker games and all kinds of gambling stuff, and I'm like, I'm not a gambler. I don't get it. And I'm like, how the hell did I hook up with all these people? I don't gamble.
Yeah. That's why gaming's a good use case for Bitcoin, because gaming's addictive. Like I said earlier, that was the first thing I got addicted to. And I guess the second thing I've been addicted to is Bitcoin. So
Yeah, well, we all get that.
yeah.
Okay, it is now we're at an hour and almost 5 minutes, so I want to make sure that we squeeze the last part in. This is the shill fest part of the interview. So shill us your announcements or anything that you want to particularly shill, which is completely fine. There's no harm in shilling.
Yeah, so please follow my Thunder Games Twitter, because we do random competitions with the games. So you can join in with others, like completing challenges. We've also, if you go to the Twitter, there's links to our Discord and Telegram groups, where I'm pretty active in those every day, because obviously I'm programming all day and I keep my eye on the chat to see what everyone's chatting about. So if you want to learn more about the games and or have any questions, you can reach me there. Also, Jack Everett is my personal Twitter handle if you want to follow me on that. But no, I mainly just retweet Thunder Game stuff, or make sarcastic, or do the odd sarcastic comment. So yeah, no
and
Bitcoin shooting on there.
And Thunder Games is at THNDRGAMES, all one word. It's also at Jack Everett, EVERITT, all one word, correct? Or is there an underscore in there?
No, it's perfect. Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, Jack, thanks for giving us your time today. I really appreciate it. It was a kind of an eye-opening conversation. I had no idea about some of this stuff when it comes to mobile and some of the pitfalls that you go through. The spinner and why you have it in the iOS version versus the Google Play is especially kind of eye-opening. So for all you guys out there that are thinking about doing mobile app development, watch out. Pitfalls are everywhere. Jack, thank you for your time. We'll talk to you later.
Cheers.
All right, before I leave you today, I want to basically leave you with this one. Brink, at Bitcoin Brink on Twitter, and that is BRINK, says, "Hello world." I've heard, like, I saw a bunch of this being tweeted around this morning and looked at this, and this I don't know, this is relatively important over here. I think so. This was released today at exactly 6 a.m. my time, the 24th of November 2020. Says, today we launch Brink, a totally independent, nonprofit organization to fund and support open source Bitcoin protocol development. Oh, baby. Okay. Apologies for the non-links below. Apparently they're trying to set links, but Twitter's being weird about blocking when you put in like a website. So apparently I'm going to have to click through all these pictures here. But their first one down here says, we'll be giving grants to independent developers so that they can spend 100% of their time improving and strengthening Bitcoin. If you're interested in applying, please go to brink.dev/programs #grants. Okay, a little weighty. And it says, just as importantly, we'll be investing in future protocol developers through our fellowship program. Fellows will spend a year learning how to be effective and impactful open source contributors. Go to brink.dev/programs #fellowship to learn more and apply. Bitcoin's value rests on its security and stability. Everything we build on top of Bitcoin depends on the base protocol and reference implementations being rock solid. One critical bug in the protocol or implementation has the potential to crash the entire Bitcoin economy. I really wish you wouldn't put it that way, but you may be right. I mean, one big bug. Okay, we've had bugs before. It didn't crash the Bitcoin economy, but we always need to be on guard. That stability of the base layer depends on skilled developers vetting new proposals, reviewing changes, and fixing bugs. Yet, there are few developers who have the experience to make impactful contributions, and the path to become a Bitcoin developer is notoriously difficult. An aside here, if I don't know if these people know about Jimmy Song, but Jimmy Song has produced many Bitcoin developers over the past few years, and from what I understand, very competent. Okay, so there is a pipeline for these people to come out into. The Brink Fellowship is a program to onboard exceptional candidates who into Bitcoin protocol developments. Fellows will receive intensive mentoring and training over the course of 1 year and become impactful and established open source Bitcoin protocol developers. We're totally independent. All of our funding will be through supporters and sponsoring organizations. We've applied for 501c3 charitable status in the United States. If you would like to support them, go to brink.dev/donate. All right, we're extremely grateful for our initial sponsors at JLPPFEFFER and Wenceslas providing funding for our startup cost and ongoing admin. We couldn't have got off the ground without their encouragement and support. Thank you. Our first fellowship position will be funded by grants from the HRF. Ooh, nice. And Square Crypto. So the Human Rights Foundation and Square Crypto are their first grants. Nice. Or the people that are going to fund it. They've provided enough funding to pay the fellow's salary and all associated costs. Thank you for your belief in the value of mentoring and your support of Bitcoin's future. At KrakenFX, have provided funding for our first grant. That'll be enough to support an experienced protocol developer to work for a year. The devs we fund will review, test, and fix bugs, improving the security of Bitcoin for all users. You rock, KrakenFX. And thanks to the amazing Gemini. That's at Gemini. We already have funding secured for our second fellowship position. Applications are now open. If you want to help build the future of money, you should apply today. Yeah, you probably should. Brink's unique model and independent funding will further decentralized open source protocol development. We're excited to add our contribution to the work that Chaincode Labs, Square Crypto, MIT DCI, and Blockstream, and many others are building. And they finish off by saying, we have more announcements coming very soon. Follow us on Twitter or head on over to brink.dev for the latest news. Okay, nice. That's good to know that we have yet more people getting into the granting and general funding of Bitcoin development. That's good. I think that they should probably hook up with Jimmy Song, or Jimmy should hook up with Bitcoin Brink, because that seems like a match made in heaven. You need people to actually teach you what to do, to have like some kind of grounding in whatever X we're choosing here. And then if you were to send them off into a fellowship program, it would just solidify what was learned before. And then by the time they get out of the fellowship, they're in a particularly good place to apply for a grant. And after a year of that grant, can you imagine how good one of these, like, check it out. Think about it. You go and you sweat it out through Jimmy Song's Bitcoin, like programming Bitcoin class. And then you get a fellowship at Bitcoin Brink. And then you get a grant from Bitcoin Brink. You're talking about 3 years. Jimmy doesn't do a whole year, but I mean, if you were to actually work on it, what Jimmy taught you for a year, and then you apply for a fellowship and you get it, and then you get the grant, dude, 3 years of solid Bitcoin development. Yeah, you're probably not going to be looking for a job for very much longer after that. Probably don't need a grant after that. Probably just get picked up. So consider that if you're wanting to, stop programming SQL stuff or, web page front end crap for, your local library, and want to do something that is more challenging. I can't imagine anything more challenging than this. Plus, what you do, the time that you spend, helps Bitcoin, and that helps humanity. It really does. It really does. With that said, I'll see you on the other side. This has been Bitcoin and I'm your host, David Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and hope to see you again real soon. Have a great day.